Yeah, I'm thinking this franchise is still good. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be ranking the 5 films of the John Wick franchise as part of my franchise Rankography series. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. So what is a Rankography exactly? Well, it's my ranking of a filmography, whether that be a director's output, an actor's appearances, or even an entire franchise. My rankographies are based on personal preference, and I rank movies according to how much I enjoyed them, rather than any specific technical merit or attribute. Remember, this is just my ranking, not the ranking, so be sure to post your own personal ranking of the John Wick franchise in the comments below. When the first John Wick film came out, I never would have guessed that it would spawn the franchise that we have today. It was a simple, little action-intensive revenge flick, with some great stunts and an entertainingly monotone Keanu Reeves. But the complexity of this world that's been built around that premise over the last decade is wild, and far more involved than I think anybody would have ever expected after watching that first film back in 2014. These movies are absurd, but they are so entertaining, and this is easily one of my favorite action franchises, which certainly makes ranking them hard, because there isn't a bad one in the bunch. I've already reviewed all 5 of these movies on this channel, so if you want to check those out for some more in-depth thoughts on each of them, I'll put links in the description below, and also link them up in the cards as we go along. Alright, let's get this rankography started. Coming in at number 5, John Wick Chapter 2. As I alluded to before, I had no idea what was to come with this franchise as it progressed to its sequels. The first film was technically capable of standing on its own as a solo film, and even though I was pretty satisfied with how it ended, I'm definitely not complaining that we ended up getting a sequel. I know I've got this one in last place, but like I said before, there are no bad John Wick movies, and this is still a film that I really enjoyed. Like all of the movies in this franchise, this one has got some pretty wicked action and great fight choreography, but it really takes the action sequences up a notch from the first movie and gives Wick a few new enemies that had the fighting skills to really go toe-to-toe with him. Wick certainly took some big hits in the first film, but there really wasn't any fight in that movie where the outcome seemed uncertain, or like he might not come out on top. A few of the fights in Chapter 2, especially the ones with Cassian, are intense, long, knockdown, dragged-out brawls. I mean, they throw each other down 3 flights of stairs, and still keep fighting. So having another character that could keep up with Wick's physicality and fighting style was a unique aspect of this one compared to the first. Chapter 2 also expanded on the assassin underworld, giving us a bit more insight into the code and the rules that govern the assassins. Unfortunately, the story that resulted from this expanded world wasn't quite as focused as that of the first movie, and didn't have the direct emotional push either, so the story just wasn't as compelling to me, which puts it in last place. Coming in at number 4, Ballerina. As with just about every other film in this franchise, I had a hard time figuring out where to place this movie in the ranking. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I genuinely enjoy all of the films in this franchise. There's not a bad one in the bunch, so having to pit them against each other is a little hard, and that's an even harder task for this particular film. Ballerina is definitely the outlier of the franchise. Not stylistically, not due to its action, but rather because of its focus. Even though John Wick does appear in this film, this isn't part of the mainline chaptered Wick franchise. Instead, this is a spin-off movie, taking place between chapters 3 and 4, following an entirely new character, Eve Macaro. Making a spin-off like this and stepping away from the core character of this franchise could have been a disastrous move, but I'm really happy to say that this film fits right in with the other movies, and is more than worthy of being part of the Wick franchise. This movie features a fairly straightforward, bare-bones revenge story, whose comparative simplicity is probably closest to that of the original Wick film, though with the added benefit of the franchise's extensive world building. It doesn't have quite the emotional undercurrent to it that the first film, and many of the better Wick films do, so that's mostly what places Ballerina down in the lower half of the ranking for me. But the action here more than makes up for its script issues. Ana de Armas is really solid as the main protagonist here, blending vengeful determination with some protective tendencies in order to craft a compelling and extremely scrappy character. As amazing as it is to say this film is actually one of the most action-packed movies in the franchise, featuring some surprisingly brutal and bloody takedowns. We get more of the expected and very entertaining gun fu, but Eve incorporates a little more, shall we say, creativity into her fighting style. So we get a lot of variety to the weapons and traditionally non-weapon items she uses in this film's frequent action sequences. It all makes for an extremely entertaining action film, and a really good spin-off movie, one that I hope gets its own set of sequels. Coming in at number 3, John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum. Despite the already extremely ramped up action of the previous mainline Wick movie, this one somehow still had room to improve and go even bigger. That's a very common thing in action franchises these days, and sometimes it results in some silliness or requires a bit of suspension of disbelief. But Chapter 3 is right in line with its predecessors. Sure, Wick fights while riding a horse through the streets of New York City in this one, but it somehow feels reasonable, and like something that just makes sense for him to be able to do, and do well. Chapter 3 still got the fluid, grappling gun fu style that I've loved since the first film, but it introduces more creative sequences as well, like the aforementioned horse. The knife fight in the antique shop was also incredibly entertaining, and one of my favorite moments in an action movie in recent memory. I loved the blend of comedy and heightened realism in that sequence, despite the crazy fight that's going on. I also really enjoyed Wick and Sophia's joint fight, and I was really hoping that we'd see more of her character moving forward, because I think the two of them make a great fighting pair. Maybe someday. Like the horses earlier in the film, I think the incorporation of Sophia's dogs into the fight scenes was clever and entertaining, and I really loved seeing the Continental's concierge finally getting in on the action too. I think Chapter 3's story was a little tighter and more focused than Chapter 2's, but I did find a few of the fights during the third act to be a bit repetitive and dragged out, which made the movie feel a little longer than it actually was. Coming in at number 2, John Wick. I know it can be said about a lot of franchises, but it truly is hard to compete with the movie that started it all. Not only did it introduce us to the intriguing and entertaining character of John Wick, setting up for everything that would come of the character in later films, but it also gave us gun fu, the extremely cool fighting style now synonymous with the franchise. That fluid blend of tactical gun use and grappling martial arts styles like judo and jujitsu is mesmerizing to watch. And even though the other 3 films use it too, there's something especially grounded about the action in this first mainline Wick movie. Don't get me wrong, I love how insane the action gets later in the franchise, but this first movie especially feels like it could be real. It doesn't seem that out of the realm of possibility that there could be an ex-assassin out there somewhere who's trained to do these things. And he pulls it off in a way that feels real. It's a little sloppy at times. He's always working with what he has at the moment, and that means he doesn't always have the perfect smooth takedown or the perfect headshot. The first Wick film also features the most simple and straightforward plot of the 4 main films, which is something that can really work for an action movie, if it's done in the right way. Despite its simplicity, it's not just a mindless action movie full of fights and gunfire. It's got a really compelling emotional core that not only works to drive the story forward, but also to humanize Wick himself. Pair that with a stylishly slick neon aesthetic, and you've got one of the most surprising, satisfying, and cool action films of the early 2010s. So that means my number 1 John Wick film is John Wick Chapter 4. Let me tell you, this one and the first film are extremely close for me, just for slightly different reasons. They flipped in the ranking over the years, but with a few more Chapter 4 rewatches, it finally took the top spot. I didn't think it was possible for this franchise to go any bigger than it already had, but it does. The world building and high table lore is expanded upon, the stakes are higher than ever, and the action? Well, the action's utterly insane. Seriously, this one features some of the best action I've ever seen, and that's saying something in the middle of a John Wick franchise ranking. It takes everything we love about the action in the previous films, the gun fu, the car chases, the dogs, and gives us more of it, all in a row, all phenomenally shot. You'd think watching this much action in a single film would start to get repetitive or even a little boring after a while, but that's not the case at all here. The weapons, fighting styles, locations, and filming techniques are mixed up so often that it remains thrilling and entertaining from start to finish. The action is certainly the big draw of Chapter 4, as it is with every chapter of this franchise, but it's far from the only thing to like about this movie. It's stylish and neon-soaked as expected, but it's also got a number of great new characters too, including probably the best villain we've had in the franchise so far, Bill Skarsgård's incredibly easy-to-hate Marquis. But this one also offers up Donnie Yen's Kane. Remember back in Chapter 2 when we thought Wick finally had a formidable foe in Cassian? Well, he's nothing compared to Kane, who brings not only fighting prowess, but also a degree of emotion to the situation. Something that extends to Wick as well, as the story delivers some of its most poignant moments since the very first movie. Alright, so that's my rankography of the John Wick franchise. 5 movies, 2 assassins, and a whole lot of bullets. What does your ranking look like? I'd love to see some reasoning for your order, so be sure to post it in the comments below. Remember, I've already reviewed all 5 of these movies, so you could check those videos out if you want some more in-depth thoughts of each of them, as well as my ratings, pros and cons, and even tailored film recommendations. And if you're interested in buying any of these movies, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this rankography, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe if you're at it to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.